Hi, my name is Cécile Baumann, and I'm your host and the founder of the company Ganz in Bewegung. I'm a movement and Alexander technique specialist. My business serves holistic thinking people who want to improve their mind body connection. Today, we have the pleasure to talk to Samantha Sam Allen. Sam is a creative leadership coach, poet, and sexological body worker. We are so excited to have her here. But before I bring her up, I want to share what I mean by mind body connection. The Ganz in Bewegung system we developed includes 7 defining components of being human. For non-German speakers, the meaning of Ganz in Bewegung is the whole of you in motion, which includes your movement, your body, your surrounding, your experience, your emotion, your thinking, and it's all connected with your breathing, and all is interconnected with each other. I'm so excited to introduce our guest, Sam Allen. Sam is a creative life and leadership coach and facilitator, tantra guide, and sexological body worker, devoted to helping women reconnect with their pleasure, joy, and their liveliness, especially during times of transition. She believes that the future of pleasure is bold, embodied, and inclusive, and that when women reclaim their right to feel deeply and fully, it transforms not only their own lives, but the world around them. Her work centers on the body as a powerful gateway to healing, vitality, and self trust. Whether a woman is navigating peri or menopause, burnout, grief, separation, or a sense of numbness, Sam creates spaces where she can safely soften, feel express, and come home to herself. She runs Permission for Pleasure, a popular group coaching program for women who are ready to reclaim sensual joy and embodied confidence. Through playful practices, courageous conversations, and a supportive sisterhood, participants explore themes like boundaries, desire, feminine energy, and creative self expression. It's a space where women are reminded that they are not alone and that their pleasure matters. For those craving deeper one to one support, Sam offers bespoke in nature retreat days for busy women in transition. These immersive experiences are held in nourishing natural spaces and combine somatic coaching, sacred ritual, sensual awakening, and quiet reflection. The impact is often profound. Clients leave feeling clearer, lighter, and more connected to who they truly are. Sam's style is intuitive, compassionate, playful, and gently challenging. Her authenticity is the golden thread that runs through everything she offers. As a highly sensitive person, Sam has learned to honor her sensitivity as an incredible teacher, one that has deepened her capacity to invite pleasure, presence, and fulfillment in her own life and in the lives of the women she supports. She brings over 2 decades of experience as an international educator, alongside a strong background in Tantra, embodiment, and creative facilitation. Her own healing journey through pleasure and spiritual practice infuses each offering with depth, honesty, and grounded wisdom. She's also the author of The Wild Feminine Spirit and a lifelong poet. After the passing of her beloved father, Sam began writing daily in nature as a way to process grief and reconnect with beauty. Creativity remains one of her most potent tools for healing and joy, and she supports others to find their unique expression, whether through poetry, movement, or sensation. Sam's deepest gift is inviting women into deeper self love. Her work gently peels back the layers of shame, conditioning, and exhaustion to reveal the vibrant, powerful being within. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Sam Allen to our conversation. Hi, Sam. It's so
Hi,
wonderful to have you here.
Cecile. It's so lovely to be here with you. And we have a glorious day. It's sunny outside. I've been in the forest today, so I feel kind of tanked up with my energy. And yeah, just lovely to be able to spend this time with you and to dive deep into whatever we're going to explore.
Yes, Sam, can you share a bit about your personal journey? What experiences have shaped your approach to coaching and creativity?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to start actually with something that you mentioned in the intro. Thank you for the lovely intro, by the way. And it was the death of my father. My father was my hero. He was my best friend. He was that one person in life who really understood me. And even as I sit here and I speak right now, I almost feel him present with me because his spirit was just so strong in my life and it continues to be that way. And yeah, the phase after I lost my father was obviously a period of intense grief and some really big dramatic feelings in my emotional world. And I was working at the time as a secondary school teacher. And so I remember coming back from the funeral and feeling like, my gosh, how am I going to get up and teach teenagers when I'm actually going through all of this stuff myself? You know, how can I possibly just put all of that on hold and go through my day as normal? And as I was walking to work that day, I honestly felt one of those moments like the dark night of the soul, like, my gosh, I feel this is just horrible. How am I going to get through these really big emotions? And in that moment, in the very moment when I felt the most despair, I guess, I received what you might call a message. And the message was write stuff down. And I'm like, write stuff down. Okay. And I don't know, it was cold. I got my phone and I started like tapping stuff into my phone. And it just poured out of me. And honestly, by the time I arrived at the school I was teaching at the time, I realized what I was writing was poems. It was poetic expression. And so this kind of stuck with me. I realized, wow, if I allow myself firstly to feel the full extent of my feelings and then let that pour out through me onto the page or, you know, into the phone, as was the case then, firstly, that's number one step of my own healing. And then what happened after that was that I started to get a bit of confidence to share with people that I trusted. And I was sharing really because it felt like something surprising. And the impact, however, was that they took something from it. They're like, oh wow, I can relate to that. You know, I remember when I was going through grief and so slowly, and I also started my coaching training through the period of time I was in the grief. I started to read my poems and share them, and I had a supportive audience, you know, in fellow coaches, and yeah, and I realized that then what had started with an intense feeling that had then moved through me and out of me onto the page, then was becoming something that I could scatter out as an expression, and it was having a wider healing impact. And so I'm going to stop there because there's so much more to say on that. What I want to underline, though, is the power of allowing our process. And so that was really the start of me, I think, becoming more fully expressed as a human being and finding room and space for the colors and feelings and sensations that live in me. And so I'm eternally grateful for what was the most harrowing and sad loss in my life. And yeah, the ultimate joy that came in me getting it out and you know, channeling it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about transforming the emotions with your body, with your brain, with everything you have, with your surroundings, you know, the sharing. It's all coming together. I think really grief is not just going away with just grieving without expressing it fully in
That's right.
expression. So, how do you help clients tap into their emotions and use them as a guide in their lives?
I love your questions. So firstly, there is something to be said for I'm a feeler. People know I'm a feeler. I didn't even need to share what I just did then, but people will be able to pick up on this woman as somebody that feels, you know? So I think I'm, let's say, I'm going to say blessed with the ability to feel big things and to communicate those feelings openly. And so I guess innately, my clients, people that get attracted to work with me, they know and trust, probably before we begin any of the work together, that if they need to have a good cry or if they need to have a bit of rage expressed or, whatever the emotion might be, that they're going to be in good hands and they're not going to be judged and they're going to have the space and the permission to feel those things. So the first part of my answer to that question is, I guess it's something that I offer naturally through my being. Second thing, though, is I'm working both in my coaching and then, of course, in the body work in a very, very physical way. And so in Tantra, we often talk about breath, movement, and sound as being the three keys. And so I'm encouraging the woman that I work with, I do work with men as well, but I'm mainly working with women, to when they are experiencing themselves, their emotions, when they are feeling in contact with their bodies through touch, to express whatever is moving through them via the breath, via sound, and then via the movement in the body. So anything goes. And it's an interesting one, actually, Cécile, because what I notice, especially amongst the female clients, is that many women have, and I count myself perhaps a bit in this as well, have been raised to maybe not make so much noise or not take up so much space with the movement or, act pretty or, and so I'm kind of rewiring that. And I'm saying to my clients, hey, this is your room right now. And if you want to like go around the room looking like a wild cat and scratching because that's the expression of you, then you may do that. There is space to, and there is room to allow all of the shades of being a woman to be free. And so I'm a big advocate for freedom and expression. And yeah, sometimes it's just a very gentle movement in the body or a very barely audible sound. It doesn't matter how big it looks. Often the subtle is the most powerful. But just opening up spaces where there is that freedom to, yeah, be playful and expressive and emotive and yeah, to let it all be there, let it all hang out, as we say in English.
I
So,
like this.
yeah, yeah, I'm like, I'm an eccentric at heart, and I'm very much into screw perfection. So, you know, I don't want anyone to ever feel with me like they have to be perfect, that they have to look perfect, that they have to sound perfect. There's no such thing anyway. And so, the more we accept each other's differences and quirks and moods and shades, then, the happier the world is, in my humble opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I hear you say is really about discovering oneself, you
Yeah.
know, in a body from a woman.
Yeah.
Because
That's right.
who is telling who you are and how you are as a woman? We are so
Yeah.
different, and actually, it's quite a journey to discover who you really are and why you are or how you want to be in
Yes.
your body. And I love this approach. So, can you share a story of how creative expression has impacted someone you've worked with?
Yes, I feel like I don't like to give too personal stories in interviews, only
Okay.
because the work that I do with clients is so deeply personal that I feel like I almost betray the intimacy that I created in the session if I speak to that kind of thing. So I'm going to speak in general terms. So what I see often in women is the woman that arrives at the session a bit shy. Maybe I'm imagining right now a bodywork session, perhaps a little bit awkward in the eye contact to start with, and kind of wants to be maybe a little bit more in contact with the sensuality, but it's already been a massive thing just to get into the room and have the conversation. And so I'm accompanying women on journeys. And a journey is something that happens over time. So there's no forcing, there's no, you have to do this in order to heal or transform. There is just a very gentle, warm, inviting, permissive space in which that beautiful soul gets to experience herself more. And so what I'm often seeing is it's a bit like, I mean, it's kind of like a cliched analogy, but it's like the flower, starts off with the bud a bit tight and beautiful, but a bit closed up. And then through the time together, it starts to kind of open and open and open and then, ooh, starts to look a bit more exotic. And I get to
Mm.
see the different shades and the colors and it's a gradual expansion then into openness and radiance and magnetism. And so what I'm often seeing is what was a little bit shut down through conditioning, through perhaps negative past experiences, starts to get a bit more trust and faith again. And then in this kind of safe space that is held and that we co-create together begins to open back out to itself. And so as a result, I mean, I'm talking here in a kind of metaphorical way, but in terms of then, real life stuff, women get more confidence. Women learn to ask for what they need in a relationship. They express their sexual desires. They say no to things more often. They don't take the job just because it looks like a great promotion, but it's going to absolutely exhaust them, you know? They repair that relationship. They walk away from that relationship that's no longer serving them. There's so many things. I've had clients that have written books, many that have written books actually, had, amazing promotions. I've had women that have rediscovered the absolute full power of their sexual energy and gone on to actually study it and, also work in the field like me. I've inspired coaches to also train and be coactive coaches like myself. There's all sorts of, wonderful impacts, and each one is very unique. And I don't measure success in inverted commas by the grandeur of the outcome, because for one person, the mere act of starting their day with a little bit of mindfulness or some nature, that could be the epic transformation that they were holding back from, for 10 years. Whereas for another person, it might be that, almighty promotion or publishing the book or, whatever. So for me, transformation is not something that is measurable in terms of how it's seen externally. Our transformation is inner. It's something that happens inside of ourselves. And then we see it in people, I often think, through the sparkle in their eyes, through the authenticity that they embody, through the cheekiness that they're, now able to convey. Those are for me the signs that the soul is back in animation again. There is a level of, I'm going to say, excitement about life, gratitude. It feels like I was going to say going somewhere, but it isn't even necessarily about going anywhere. But there feels like there's this movement of life force. And my work in the field of conscious sexuality is a lot to do with waking the life force back up. And yeah, I can tell you more about that, but I'm gonna take a little sip of my tea first. And
Yeah.
you have another question. Mm.
Yeah, no, but it's really great. I think every human is a creative, sensual being.
Yeah,
And it's just that we don't have the surroundings sometimes or the space to develop those
yeah,
creative, sensual potential in our society.
yeah.
And that's a pity. And I love that people like you are bringing the space, the surroundings, the support that is needed
Mm.
for really developing those skills. They are inherent, as you said, and creativity is a big point. You talk a lot about creativity, and you found poetry. And does anybody has a somehow a connection to poetry, or is it something you knew already, or how did it
Well,
come about? How did
yes,
you discover your creativity?
I was always like a really creative kid, Cécile. So when I was younger, I think what you do when you're a kid says a lot about who you are generally as a person, even though you get like those adult layers that go on. But I was always making up little songs and dances, usually about the neighbors, some of them a little bit cheeky. And I did musical theatre, and I think I like my parents encouraged me to do musical theatre because I was quite a shy child, actually. I have a very shy part of me and an extremely expressive part of me. But somehow, yeah, I just was in like this kind of phase, which I don't think I ever really grew out of, to be honest, of creating the songs, lots of stuff with words, lots of imagination. And so that ran really throughout my childhood. And then when I went into my working world, it sort of got a bit squashed out of me. I mean, when I was a teacher, of course, I was bringing creativity into the lessons, but even then, there was quite a strict format as to what I was expected to deliver. And, the focus was obviously a bit more onto the academic. And so I think my creativity was a bit latent for a number of years. And it really was in losing my father and losing a part of me in the process that there was such a big kind of void that I think it was almost in the void that the creativity came back to me. Oh, it was like a reclaiming, and it was the time to do that. So, but my father, he loved to sing. He sang in choirs. He did musical theatre. He was also a very expressive man. I have a picture. I may be looking to the side as I speak because I have a picture of him right by my desk. Maybe I'll show it.
Mm.
My dad.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
And
Oh.
yeah, whenever I see the photo, I feel filled with joy and gratitude for being raised by a father who showed me how to express emotions. My dad, he had this innate gift of speaking, yeah, speaking his own emotions. And as a man, especially, from the era that he was born in, that's a rare, rare gift. And so, yeah, I feel blessed that I think I inherited some of his lesson. And certainly as a child, I was given free rein to create, to emote, and to do all the things that I've been talking about throughout our conversation so far. So I did have a lot of permission as a child to be expressive, to be imaginative, and I think that was a good grounding because many of us are taught that these are kind of soft skills or things that aren't going to get us by in life, and I
Mm.
was never given that message by my dad, so or my mum actually. So that was, a really good grounding.
Yeah, yeah, it's a pity that we don't learn how to deal with emotions
Yeah.
in school. Huh? Would be great.
Yeah.
It's coming. I think it's coming, slowly, slowly. There are
Yes.
some teachers introducing how to deal with emotions in a better way, not
Yes.
just hiding away, but really to express it
So
creatively.
good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and
we
the thing is, I
doing.
mean, it's around like you don't want to live life being ruled by your emotions.
Hmm.
So I think there is a fine line between allowing them, expressing them, seeing them as beautiful sources of information. Like it's almost like the weather. The
Yeah.
emotion you're feeling is the weather that's kind of happening in you. Some people differentiate between feelings and emotions. I use the words relatively interchangeably. But yeah, you don't want to also be like in a constant reaction coming from the emotions. And so there I think it's why it's so healthy to have guidance and to be accompanied with your emotions, and especially when they are coming up strongly around, personal events like loss, death, um, redundancy, transitions, menopause, perimenopause. We're always going through one transition or another. Burnout. We sometimes do need a guide that's going to be able to help us to access and process and then ultimately alchemize the emotions so that they become something that we can actually use to have more beautiful things in our life. Because it's
Yeah.
energy, in coaching, we talk about emotions as being like the E for energy in motion.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, if I'm experiencing anger, I'm not my anger, but the weather right now is angry, you know. But if I just notice it and I say, hey, look, it's all red and it's, fiery and it's angry, quite often it will change relatively quickly. Where
Yeah.
emotions become a problem or a sticking point for us is when they get pushed down,
Hmm.
when they get repressed, when we clench our jaws and just push on. Yeah, bracing ourselves. You know it all from the work that you do. And then, as we know, the body keeps the score. It holds the score. And so, if we don't process or allow an emotion to run its full course, then probably it's still there somehow. It might be somewhere in our posture, as you know, it might be somewhere in our energy body. And probably at some stage, it's going to come knocking on the door. And it might be a little bit more dramatic the next time because we didn't listen and look the first time. So I think I know the process is around acknowledging and meeting emotions with friendliness and care and not seeing them as the enemy, but also not seeing them as the rulers in our life, you know? And I think that's something I have to admit as I share this with you that I don't, I'm not in full mastery of this the whole time for sure, but I've learned in my menopause even more so how I can deliberately choose to express and not let them rule. Because beforehand, being an emotional being, sometimes it would feel like waves that would come like sweep over me, and then I would be in them, Now, yes, I can feel them and I can express them, and they're still quite big, but they're not always ruling me, So I've learned myself also how to, yeah, how to have a different relationship with them. And that's the beautiful thing about this phase. Um, yeah,
I love the way you talk about emotions as the weather,
yeah,
the clouds hanging really hard on
yeah.
the sky. And if you try to hold the cloud, I mean, you can't.
Right.
So that's what we do with emotions. We try to hold on, and it doesn't make any sense. It's really
Yeah.
hard work. And the more emotions you have to hold in your body,
Yeah.
the harder and the unflexible and the more rage is coming up probably, or whatever emotion it is, what, as you said. So it's making completely sense, and you can't release the whole thing right now. If you have a lot of tension or a lot of holding going on, it
Yeah.
needs this gentle co-regulation. Can you let go at the moment,
Yes.
in
Yeah.
this moment? What is safe for you to let go? And you
Exactly.
don't know at the moment, but you can trust there is somebody who can guide you through and will stop whenever it's going too fast, too big, too
Yeah.
whatever. And I think that's very nice that you really guide them through. It's so important because once you open the door, there is no going back.
Yes.
or
Yeah.
or you need a lot of force again
Yeah.
to
You're
close the
absolutely
door.
right. And what I see often in female clients is we tend to hold tension in our jaw.
Yeah.
And so I always like when I'm first with a woman, in one of our first sessions, I just say, move your jaw from side to side. Like it doesn't look very pretty, move it. And usually, you can, I don't know about you, but it kind of clicks, and you can stick your tongue out. Really
Uh-huh.
pretty stuff. But the hips are very connected to the jaw, as you know. And so the more we create a bit less tension and we move the tension and the stuck stuff in the jaw, the more the hips become more fluid and flexy. And guess what? Our sensual energy starts to wake up. We start to feel more that kind of like circling in the hips, and we connect down to our sensuality more. So if you're listening right now and you are a little bit out of touch with your sensuality, and you can recognize in yourself, yeah, I do hold quite a bit in my body and in my jaw and maybe in my neck and stuff. Yeah, start by a little bit of loosening with the jaw and then just notice what that does in the hips. And you can also try what we call Kundalini shaking, which is You just can I show? Is that okay if I stand?
Of
Yeah.
course, I love it.
Right. You may not see my whole body now. Who knows what parts of me you're going to see? But so basically, you stand with your feet about hip width apart, and you just gently keep your, knees a bit soft, and your hands down by your side, and your arms are loose, shoulders nice and relaxed, and you just let your body shake itself. You can breathe when you're doing that. If you want to make sound, you can make sound. I'm a sounder. Basically, what you're doing there is in letting your body shake itself, you're shaking that stuck energy that might be in your body and you're moving it a little bit. And because your feet are nice on the ground, you're feeling that connection to the earth. And I can see from you, Cécile, it's a little bit playful from the smile on your face. Yeah, and then you can actually work with the shaking, and eventually you just literally shaking yourself, your body shaking itself. And you can start to move the energy up your chakras. And yeah, there's so much potential with the shaking. Yeah, I mean, how do you feel after that short spell?
Oh, I love it. It's just so energetic.
Yeah,
And we should do this every hour at least, a little
yeah,
bit of shaking, a little bit of
yeah.
dancing, moving.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know you're a big mover. Yeah, and another thing that also helps me is I don't know if you've ever heard of these Shakti mats.
No.
So I don't have my mat here, otherwise I would grab it. But they are, if you're listening and you're curious, they're called either Shakti Mat or Prana Mat. I think in Switzerland there's a company called Prana Mat. And they are mats, I don't know, so big. And they have little hexagons of spikes, like the bed of nails. So you lie back onto your back, onto the mat, and at first it hurts because you've got spikes going in your back, right? It's not dangerous or anything, but it's like they're little acupuncture pressure things. And so when you get past the initial pain, which is a couple of minutes, I would say, oxytocin starts to be released and all of those, good feeling hormones in the body. And my gosh, I mean, the first time I laid on one of these things, for me, it actually really woke up my sexual energy. I was like, wow, I'm just lying here and I feel like that sexy feeling just from lying on a mat. Sometimes, and these days, I use it for relaxation. So if I, well, often actually before bed, I lie on it before bed. I do a little meditation, and most of the time, I fall asleep whilst I'm still lying on the back. I wake up usually and move it, but it's a really good way of feeling your body because that's what this is all about. Actually, everything we're talking about here, it's about how can I feel myself more, and the body is such a great tool and friend when it comes to feeling ourselves more. When we are having stressful feelings, burnout feelings, the disconnect, it's usually because we've lost that sense of being in our own body. We may be able to just feel like in our head with lots of thoughts racing and churning, but what's happening from the head downwards, we've probably lost connection with. So anything we can do, like the shaking or the mat, or, if you're a jogger going out for a little jog, dance a bit with some music, get yourself back in touch with you. And then you soon find that when you do that, the emotions bubble back up, the aliveness bubbles back up, and you start to remember who you are and you start to get back in contact with your essence. And the reason why I specifically work with sexual energy and sensual energy and sexuality is that in everything I have experienced in terms of inner development and my personal journey, the most profound and deeply touching transformation happened through the world of conscious sexuality because it's the most primal part of us. You know, our genitals are our origin. If you want to know who you are, be fully in contact with your genitals, you know. And yeah, for many women, that process is slow, kind of like remembering and yeah, coming back to the self and remembering the connection between the heart space and the genitals and remembering the wholeness that we are and healing through that. It's very healing work. And yeah, I'm a healer. I admit it. Hands up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so powerful. I think most are more afraid of the power you get once
Yeah.
you're connected really with the whole self and also with sexuality,
Yeah.
because then you're really in power.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
this
funny.
can be frightening
Do you
also.
know, you mentioned something really spot on there around it's like the Marianne Williamson quote, the thing that we're most afraid of is that we're powerful beyond measure. You
Yeah.
know, that's the thing that we fear. And you know what we are. But when we're actually in it, it's not scary at all. It's the most, I mean, when I think about my own personal experiences, the times when I am the most fully connected to my sexual power and sensuality are the most vulnerably beautiful, expansive, gentle, innocent, delicious moments of my whole life. And as I say that, I get emotion that comes, you know, it's not scary.
Mhm.
And I'm not scary. It's the most natural thing. And so
Yeah.
what makes me sad about even some people's perception around all of this, is that it's so misunderstood. Um, in the Western world, when we become adults, we kind of close the bedroom door on the topic of sex and sexuality and sensuality. And, we have our little private experience of it or not, but we don't really open up dialogue around it. And that's why so many people in their relationships either start to shut down or feel unfulfilled, or, some people have affairs, or there's so much repression and unhealthy um, polarization of sexuality. And so my work is to shed light on all of it, to help people see the beauty and power and innocence and naturalness of their sexual energy, and to find really healthy and loving ways in which they can live that in their lives in order to feel confident and bubbly and, excited. And that's where the self-love is, because when you feel those feelings, then you can't help but, rest in a greater sense of self-love a lot of the time.
Um, the danger of not expressing sexuality.
Yeah.
I think some really scary illnesses are
Yes.
coming from suppressing our feelings, our sensuality, our movements in the body. It's all the suppression is actually making the problem. Or how do you see this? Is
I,
this?
I mean, I'm like, yeah, yes. The whole body, it's like a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah,
Like there's
it's
energy and movement and stuff, and you put the lid right on the thing. So it's like, my gosh, this is going to explode at some time if it
yes.
doesn't get out, So it's a bit like what we were saying around the emotions before. It's the same with the sexual energy and the sensual energy. If it doesn't get to be expressed and moved through, then it stays kind of either stagnant or, it builds up like a pressure. And then that's exactly as you describe, it can come out in destructive or dangerous or harmful ways. Yeah, anything that we hold back or make wrong or exile, in the end, it becomes a shadow. And yeah, it doesn't need to be like that. Not at all.
No, and as we know, it's not dangerous, you know.
Mm. Totally. I mean, yeah, but the thing is that, just to normalize also though, many women have had situations in their life, past
Mhm.
experiences where they maybe have felt threatened or in danger due to sexual energy being misused or disrespected. So I just want to name that, we have many of us, if not most of us women, experience that to some degree or another. So, many of us also carry that, and that also can add to the fear of it. So, yeah, it's about firstly acknowledging. that that has happened and that we've lived through that. And then beginning to heal, you know, and it's possible. And so if you're listening and you're like, wow, that feels like a million miles away from me right now. I had some really shitty experiences with my sexuality. Just know that I see that, and it is so possible for you to make real changes here and to open back up and to enjoy yourself as a woman, you know, because you fully deserve that.
If listeners could walk away with one key insight from our conversation today, what would that be?
Mhm. Yeah, I love that question. So I'm actually having a feeling in my body as you ask me that question. And what my body wants to share is that you have a right to feel safe, to feel well, and to feel healthy and alive in your own body. So if you're listening to this right now and you're having feelings of numbness or discomfort, or you're noticing that you're holding trauma in your body, perhaps from a previous negative experience, then just know you're not alone and that many women have experienced that too. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to seek some really decent professional help. Find somebody that you trust, do your homework. You can reach out to me and I can recommend somebody also. But just make sure that you equip yourself by looking into resources that's going to really support you on your healing journey, because you deserve to feel connected to you and well.
What a nice finish of our conversation. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Sam, for being with us today and sharing your wisdom.
My pleasure, Cecile. It was lovely. You're a wonderful host, and thank you so much for this lovely space to open up and share.
Thank you so much. You know, this is a big topic and it's so important that we talk about it. To our listeners, thank you for being part of this conversation. I hope you found inspiration in Sam's stories that encourage you to explore your own journey with courage and compassion. I can also highly recommend the Heartgasms podcast. Have a listen and let yourself be inspired. Don't hesitate to contact Sam and book an introductory call today. If you found value in this conversation, we encourage you to like and share this interview with your friends. Your support helps us reach more people and women who can benefit from these important discussions. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more enlightening interviews and content that inspires personal growth and well being. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Let's continue to support one another as we grow and learn together. Until next time, take care and keep moving forward with heart and soul.